and turn it over to you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to chat with you all about marketing and social media. It's something that I'm super passionate about. I really love marketing. And it's stuff that I've used during my day job, but having the ability to also use it with Mr. Domestic and to watch what can happen with it. I just want to share as much information that I have gleaned, because I know that it's taken a lot of energy and effort, and a lot of times knowing what that first question is the barrier to us getting started. So I jumped at the chance to be able to chat with this about all of y'all. Because it's not that I'm like walking around as a social media person looking at everyone's account and being like, ooh, ooh. It's none of that, but it's like I see a lot of people making choices for their brand and or promotion. And I'm always of the mindset you don't give feedback unless asked or if you have permission. So I don't, and I stay in my lane of positivity. But I see a lot. I wish that I could course correct some people and that there were more conversations like this where people would share their tips and their insight, because I don't feel that there's a cap or a max on greatness or success, especially within sewing and crafting, because that's an amazing segment and niche. But there's no reason for us to not share our secrets so that we can all elevate and all grow and all flourish, because as one flourishes, we all do. And then if we all do, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. Everyone's going to be sewing and crafting and going to Michael's. So with this, I sat down and I thought about a great jumping off point, because I realized once I sat down to construct this class that there's a lot of information I have in my head. And I've learned a lot of stuff in the past 5-6 years that Mr. Domestic was birthed into the world about how to be successful. And so I'm stoked to chat with y'all about that. But one thing just to be aware, because I know we all like to compare and compete and look what other people's numbers are. Numbers are just a number. Like, it doesn't matter how many of anything you have anywhere. If you have one person that's interested in you and your brand, and that's a great starting point. So whereas my numbers might be at a certain place, don't feel overwhelmed, because it took a long time. I still remember when I had like 500 subscribers on Instagram and I was like, what am I doing here? I don't understand this place. And then now, ta-da, I'm chatting with y'all with Michael's. Like, what's that about? That's pretty cool. So I do have a question. I'm just curious, who in here knows me? Not personally, like been to my house, because I don't do people yet. But who is aware of Mr. Domestic or me or follows me on social media? I'm curious, just to know. If you don't, it's totally okay. Hello, my name's Matthew. Nice to meet you. People know me as Mr. Domestic. I try to be a beacon of positivity, but I'm also a beacon of inclusion. So sometimes I have to have conversations that don't seem positive to those that I'm trying to educate on inclusion. So just know that that's where I am. Anywhere that I am, it's an inclusive space. And anyone that I'm aligned to know that it needs to be that. It just means you need to have a general compassion for other people. And I feel like as crafters, we all should be, because most of us are introverts. It's socially awkward. I might be outgoing, but I am too. And so, yeah, there's nothing but love when it comes to sewing and crafting. So for those that don't know all of this, Matthew, Mr. Domestic, I'm a 45-year-old goober dad, married to my spouse, formerly husband, before they made some decisions in their true identity. But we have an 8.5-year-old daughter. Like, she's amazing. She's the most amazing creature in the history of the universe. Like, hands down, like, wow, she's amazing. And I get the privilege of like guiding her on her journey. And she was the catalyst for everything Mr. Domestic. I always wanted to craft whenever I was a kid. I grew up in Texas in a conservative household, so it wasn't encouraged for me, even though my mom had an epic craft room. I wanted to learn. She always wished that my sisters would learn, and so I didn't get it. I learned what I could through osmosis, but I always had that like desire to. So whenever my daughter was born, my spouse bought me a couple sewing classes. And then with her as my inspiration, I was suddenly like really good at it. And then the sky's the limit once things happened on social media. And the steps that I made to building my brand were steps that I made to build my community. And I don't think that in our social media era that we should think of them as different. A community is your brand. That's now how things are. People want access to you, want exposure to you, want to know more about you. So that's how I've always thought about it. So the tenets of me building a community based on my values personally and business wise are what guided my journey on my social media exploration. So I do have a day job that I still do. People don't know that I work in HIV pharmaceuticals. I'm on vacation right now, but I've done all of this with a day job. So for people to say they don't have the energy for what I'm about to share or time, we all have it. You just need to choose to do it. Then my numbers, let's talk about the numbers, just so that you know why I'm here. I don't think that my numbers make me anything special. Like, I'm still lame and I'm still that little boy that like had no friends in high school. So like, I'll always be that. But Instagram, 126,000. YouTube, 95,000. TikTok, what am I at? 325,000. Facebook, 38,000. Facebook group, 12,000. Newsletter, 20,000 subscribers. Pinterest, I have like 500,000 people that see it every day. My blog, I have about 1 million people that see that on the month. And those are all of the metrics. So why I say that is not to be like, look at me, I did that, but it's to show you that I never put my eggs in one basket when it came to social media. My first one that I entered was Instagram. And that was a great entry point for my penetration strategy as a brand whenever I started doing this. But each and every different social media platform has a different value proposition, and it has a different demographic, and it has a different culture of what you're supposed to post and how you're supposed to post and how you're supposed to grow. Each one of those is unique. And some common mistakes, if they are, that I see, like with people coming over to TikTok, I see people posting like general videos, and through those general videos, they don't get the access because they're not maximizing what the culture is. And I'll go more into an explanation of that. Or they'll post the same content at the same time on Instagram and on Facebook. So that's also something that happens. But if you're doing this as a business, you're gonna have to do things that are uncomfortable and that you don't want to do. And you're gonna have to get on multiple platforms and not just be on the easy ones. And you might need to, if you have a business, use some of the promotional opportunities they have and throw down some marketing money to get exposure. Like that's what you're going to need to do. So there is a worksheet. There's a blog post and a worksheet for this. And the blog post and worksheet have a lot of the same information on them. But I wanted to go through some of it. Let me just get some hands. Can people are the hands on? I'm curious who's on Instagram. I'd love to see that.
We have lots of people in chat saying me.
Okay.
Tons and tons.
What about TikTok? I'm curious if the number goes down. Okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it go through real fast. What about Facebook? Okay, yeah, so there's no's. And so why I asked that in this way is if you're here just to get popular and learn some tips, that's totally cool. Like whatever, like we live in that era now. But if you're here as a business or a brand trying to grow and trying to be successful, then in a time when there are so many factors going against us, if you said no to any of those, I'm going to ask you to rethink that, because you're missing a part of the pie that could genuinely help you. And I'm happy to be the person to actually help you, because the way that I see mine is it's a big spider web. I don't think of my social media as there's this over here, there's this over here, there's this over here. It's that they all connect in a web and they function like a well-oiled machine of promoting anything when it happens. So who in here knows what I mean by the word value proposition? Like when something has a value proposition, can anyone try to give me a definition in the chat? I'll see them coming through real quick. Right, yeah. What sets you apart from everyone else? There's a value proposition for us as a brand, for me as a brand. My value proposition is accessible and inclusive sewing and crafting that I want to teach everyone and bring them into the community. So that's my value proposition. But Facebook has its own value proposition or reason that people use it. Instagram has its own value proposition or reason that people use it. And a lot of times those reasons and a reason why someone would use a social media platform goes along with their demographics, specifically within age ranges. And so those are the ones that I would definitely suggest you all to research and understand, because how you market and promote to a teenager is very different than how you would market and promote for someone who's 65 and over. There's going to be some overlaps. And I mean, this is sewing and crafting and makerspace. So it's like, there's not a lot of breadth and diversity, but the messaging, the way you do it, what you do, which platform you are on is important to know that you're in alignment. Because let's say if your dominant demographic is 52, 75, like I'm a quilter. So that's a group of humans that I love, and I have a lot of them in the community. But then I wouldn't be on TikTok to try to get them, because that skews younger. You'd be on Facebook. Facebook would be the first one that I would think to go to if that was my dominant demographic, because each of the main platforms, and I see them as TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, have a core audience that is who I go after whenever I'm using a specific platform. So TikTok, it skews really young. Like I'm shocked when I'm able to see some of my insights there that it's a lot of the 13 to 18 and then the 18 to 30 range. Like that's where the largest bolus of people who follow me and engage with my content is. So that's young, right? Instagram, for me, my dominant demographics there age-wise are the 30s and the 40s. So that's my age, which is the most awesome. Sorry, it's just what it is. It's a fact. I have to be a truth teller. And then Facebook, it skews older. The biggest population on Facebook is not 50 and above, but there's the perception that it is. And so that's what I view Facebook for and who I communicate in my insights. Really, really support that, especially in the maker community. I'm saying this because a lot of people use Instagram as their go-to. It's easy, you understand it, you put up pictures, the interface, it makes sense, people can DM you, access is great. But if you have a maker business, depending on whether it's patterns or handmade items or goods, and you're not over on Facebook, I'm concerned for you, because Facebook is where you need to be, and the way you build a Facebook community is different. And I know there's the stigma of it, but oh well, they're there, and that's what you need to do. So that's the biggest thing that I see. Get on Facebook. I know, but that's what we have to do if we're going to use social media for marketing. Kind of going on a tangent, but a separate thing that I noticed a lot of is that when you start to have a business on social media, people get confused with removing the personal. Like you're no longer using it as social media. You're now using it as a marketing tool. And I don't see that shift. That if you continue to use it as social media, which I do, I love my community. I chat with them all the time. We have conversations, live streams, all of that. But it's for marketing. It's for the marketing purposes of Mr. Domestic. That if you're still using it as social, that's something I would definitely think about. and just think about what you're really wanting. If you're wanting to continue it as a hobby and just make a couple extra dollars, that's one thing. But as a business, you definitely need to start thinking of it and using it as a marketing tool. And that will determine the type of content that you put out there, because it's no longer just representing you as a human, it's representing you and your brand and something you're really, really working for. So it's going to be a little bit different. But so Instagram, the overall value proposition, I'm just going to go through these, is fun and simple photo sharing platform. That's a visual medium. It's primarily for photo sharing. One thing about this, and I'll get into it more in content types, is each of the platforms are competing with one another for your time. So if you see one platform take on what someone else is really good at, like let's say Reels on Instagram, I would bet you 9 times out of 10 that there is some kind of growth incentive within the platform when you use it. Reels, I noticed that right away. Once I understood the Instagram or the TikTok algorithm, Reels on Instagram is a separate algorithm. It operates differently. I have people still following me because of posts I posted a year ago. It's different than how the interface works with photos. So that's just something to keep in mind, is if you're on one, same with YouTube. YouTube now has the shorts. Oh yeah, I've only been posting shorts for a couple months and I've seen significant growth on my YouTube account. So if you see someone trying to step outside of what they're good at their core business, then I would use it. You got to use it because they want you to use it and they're going to incentivize you to use it and you're going to see benefits in using it. So Facebook is to make the world more open and connected. So for me, the value proposition of Facebook is storytelling and community-based. And that's what I see the successful or larger Facebook accounts. It's about building that community there. It's about sharing information. It's about not necessarily pictures, but sharing from another influencer, and then they'll share your stuff. It's just about building a community. And then from that, you get to funnel it more into your Facebook group. I love my Facebook group. It's one of my favorite places on the internet. It's just amazing. I love everyone there. But that's a way to reach them directly. So it's the big Facebook and then the little Facebook. And I just want to let y'all know, this is a lot of information. And this is very high level. Because I know that y'all can do it. And I know that y'all are there. And those of you who are used to Mr. Domestic with this unicorn horn and sequins, it's all business. We even had outfit changes before I came on here. We decided that it was going to be a business. Just because this is information that you need to know. But also be aware, the conversation doesn't end with this. And I just want y'all to know that their YouTube video will be posted. Add comments there. Go to my blog posts. Write comments in there. Let's keep the conversation happening. If you have a question and I don't get to it, let me know. That's how we're all going to grow. Not necessarily from this moment, but what happens afterwards with the conversation. So the blog. Who has a blog?
Matthew, I was wondering if we could actually pause and answer a few questions that we have had come in. I appreciate everyone who's entering questions into the Q&A. That helps me catch them. The chat is scrolling by really fast. We have a lot of good conversation happening in the chat. So I've also been kind of catching some other comments that I'd just like to share with you. A little shout out to Host Stu, who says, I've been following you for a while and love you and I mean it. And Amanda Underwood says, I love your TikTok. Simone says she doesn't yet, but she's going to follow you soon.
Oh, awesome.
And so then we have a few questions about what you've been discussing about Facebook and Instagram. One question I thought was very smart was, do you recommend a Facebook page or a Facebook group? Is there a difference or an advantage between one or the other?
I'm on Facebook for my group. That's what I'm on there for. I have a Facebook page and my page has more people than my group, but I think where I get the ROI is in my group, because those are people who have opted in to engaging with me and getting more information. Basically, the way I see it is people are just wanting to see you on their feed, so they join your group and Facebook puts it up higher. Those are people who want to chat and engage with you. So just the fact that it's, I mean, people that are into you as opposed to someone who follows you for a post that they thought was cute and then forgot why. Like, these are people who really want to participate. So I definitely have both. I wouldn't do one or the other. And why I say that is like, there are even more beyond what I use, but you never know what's going to hit for you. Like, you never know. Your experience might be the opposite of mine, and your Facebook page might be where it's at, and your group might be like, wah, wah, and that's cool. You gotta try them all to find out what's going to happen.
On that same note for Facebook, do you recommend having a separate a business side or on a Facebook account and then a personal side on Facebook, or do you have this one in the same?
This one I'm still noodling on. I have a personal account. I never go to it because I don't like those conversations. So I never go to my personal Facebook. I don't need it. The only reason I have it is because this is something that I noticed, and how I got all of this information was noticing people growing and being successful, and then I would just replicate what they did. And I would notice people who had both a personal and a business page. If there was something that was like impactful or where there was a call to action, they would post it both on their business page and their personal page. I didn't understand it, but then I saw that it was like the same kind of people that were engaging and stuff. So that's up to you. I'm reaching a point where I don't want people to have that kind of access to my personal, so I think I might turn it off if I can figure out how to do that. Business is where it's at. I'm just finding it a lot easier just for boundaries and stuff to separate them. So that would be mine.
Definitely. And we did have quite a few people asking about Etsy, and you haven't touched on that at all yet. So I'm wondering if you plan on talking about that, or if that's something that they should.
I don't consider Etsy a social media platform. It's a sales platform, but I do use it. Yeah, that's the hub of my shop. I have a shop and I use Etsy, but as far as social media, I haven't explored how to like build a community there or any of that jazz. So I only know it as a, what's it called? The place to sell things. I don't know it as a community. So I don't know anything beyond that, but I love if there are questions, we can find answers and stuff. Like, that would be great.
Perfect. And I also want to let everyone know people who are asking for the blog post or for the PDF that Matthew spoke about. If you go into the Q&A and you go to the answered tab, you can find those URLs to download those there.
Oh, it's there. It's wait, there. Oop. Any more questions?
I think we have a few others that I'm saving because I think you're going to touch on them a bit later.
Okay. So then just to go through the basic value propositions, I asked about people having a blog because I heard a lot when I first got started of people not seeing the value in a blog. And I feel like my blog is the most important aspect of all of it. It's at the core and it's the hub of everything I do. And that's one place that I control. Like, that's mine. Those are my people. Facebook doesn't own that. I mean, WordPress probably does, but those are my people. So everything directs to that. And that's how I build my email list. And that's how I get people to use my affiliate links and all of those kind of things. So if you don't have a blog or someone's told you that it's not worth it, wow. I'm not generally one to say we're all unique. No, wow. Everyone should have a blog. It's important. That's a direct line of communication and one more access point for someone to get to know you. Newsletter. If you haven't started a newsletter, oh my goodness. I'm so grateful that one of my buddies early on suggested I do that. The main way that I grew my newsletter was having pop-ups on my blogs. So I would write a blog, tell people to go to my blog. There'd be a pop-up to sign up for a newsletter. People would sign up for my newsletter and then read the blog. After 100 or so blogs, you got a newsletter, like your list. That's my primary way. There are other ways to do it, but definitely do that if you haven't started yet. Pinterest is a search engine. It's in the category of Google, not quite social media, but it's still important. And for me, how it's worked for me is I will always have a Pinterest worthy like montage or collage photo at the end of my blog post that people can pin. There have been some of my blog posts that just due to Pinterest, and they were random. I never could have predicted it, got millions of views. And I'm like, wow, the traction that brought to my blog and to me and being exposed to everything else, Mr. Domestic, wow, that was powerful. So that's what I just make sure to put a picture there. I haven't done much more than that, but that's a great way to all those viral moments in social media really do make a difference. YouTube is long form videos for education and entertainment. usually tutorial or topic based. And then TikTok is short form, same with a little bit of differences. We've already talked about the demographics. We've already talked about some of the content types on what to do. One thing I do want to touch on, because I really just want everyone to get over on TikTok, because I don't have the final numbers, and I've done a lot of growth strategies and revenue strategies, but my revenue for last year doubled as a result of TikTok because of the access and the engagement and the growth. That, wow, y'all need to get over there and be a part of it. But, and if you've never been there, you're not going to understand. TikTok is about trends. It's not about just putting a random video up that you wanted to do. There's trends in sounds and trends in like what the video is about. And you really have to be on TikTok to understand the trends and to grow. Otherwise, people aren't gonna, they just won't, I mean, they won't play with you. They want, it's all about play. I think it's like play and fun. Everyone just having fun, being silly, doing the most. But you have to really be dialed into those trends. And I thought about like maybe coming up with some kind of creative collective. Like if we could have it's a tangent. Like if we could have like a spreadsheet or something of like, these are the trends going on this week. This is the sound, let's do it. Like people could just add to it, a Google Sheet, something, make it so. I feel like that would be great if we could somehow like as creatives get together and understand the trends better and how to use them for maker spaces. But those are the nutshell. This goes into more detail in the worksheet and the blog post that y'all will all get. But the best way to see this is, or to visualize it, is to use a real life example. So in the worksheet, I did a real life example, which is this moment, right? This is a very meta moment. This is this moment, which was this course on tips for social media marketing for makers. So that was the topic. And then I have a blank checklist if someone wants to go through it right here. Or it's like, once you have a topic or something you're about to do and create content for, then brainstorm of what you could do for each one. And you'll find that it's relatively simple if you do it this way before, as opposed to after and then trying to cobble things. Because then as you're making whatever or creating content for a product, you'll be like, oh, I need to get this vertical real quick for Reels or a TikTok. Let me do this part horizontal for YouTube. And then you might realize that some of them might not be the right social media platform for whatever it is that you're doing. So with mine, and this being the Michael's class on tips for marketing with social media makers. And just so y'all are aware, when you get to the worksheet, these links right here, those are my links. So if y'all wanted to connect with me on any of my socials, those hyperlink to me. And then these hyperlink to the actual example that I've already implemented on my social media. So with Instagram, I did a Reels sharing me and Michael's and the Michael's newsletter, because I was in their newsletter. So I was like, oh my God, look at me, I'm in a newsletter. And I was like, but more importantly, there's a class, and it performed really well. I used that on my Reels and on my TikTok. I shared the sign up before on Facebook. On Instagram, I also did a stories with the swipe up. I know not everyone has that function. On Facebook, I also shared the blog post the day of this event. So I'm going to share the blog post after this. And then I'm going to do some follow-up graphics, because I do well with graphics and memes on my Instagram where it's like swipeable. So I'm going to do a tips graphic and create it where it's like, these are the main tips, and then swipeable. Well, that's one more piece of content I know I'm going to create, and I've already started taking notes. I did the same thing on my Facebook groups. My blog is basically all of this with just words and some pictures. And then I will add the actual link to the video there. And I see that that space is going to be living, breathing. I'll add to it. We can have conversations and engage over there. That could just be a place, or on the YouTube video to grow. My newsletter I sent prior. I share, and I'm going to share my blog post and video for a follow-up after. Pinterest, I've already done the Pinterest worthy graphic. It's already over there. YouTube is going to be on Michael's, but just because it's on Michael's doesn't mean I can't do something. I'm going to create a shorts, just advertising, like maybe saying a couple tips and then saying, hey, but go look at the long form video. And then you can do pictures. So a picture of it to put in your community. And then TikTok. I love TikTok live streams because of the access. So I promoted this every time that I went there. But just here, I was able to do every single thing. And me saying it out loud, it wasn't a lot. It just, I planned about it before. And so it didn't seem so overwhelming. And it's like, oh, okay, this is how it needs to happen. And I'm going to be truthful. This is the very first time that I've ever planned that way. And I was like, wow. I mean, because I do it and I know what to do. It's just like second nature, but sitting down and actually like, this is going to be an action real thing for me now, because this just made it a whole bunch easier than having to keep it in my 45-year-old brain that has been severely damaged over time. So that is the real life example for me. So I would challenge everyone, once you get the worksheet and go to the blog, to really think about the next project that you're going to do. And even if you don't have any of these social media platforms, try to think about what you might be able to create there, something that you could, to see if your brain can even go there. And if it goes there easily, then clearly you need to be there. But this will take some work and some muscle memory. But being organized is critical to this happening and it not being overwhelming.
Matthew, I think that your checklist is giving a lot of people relief. I was definitely sensing a lot of overwhelm in
absolutely.
The chat at first when you were going through everything. We have a lot of comments that are like, how do you have time for this? How do you set aside so much time? I'm going to be spending more time working on my social media posts than I will be making my products. So I think there was a lot of concern about time management in the social media and having to do so many different things.
And that's what it's about. It's about simplifying it. And to be honest, the lesson of creating social or using social media as a marketing tool, as opposed to a social tool, is a lesson I learned later. I learned it last year to where I stopped. Like, I would always try to engage and have conversations, and I'd find myself crying in the bathroom because of something a troll said. And it's like, no, this isn't social. This is a marketing tool. I love my community, but I spend so much less time on social media than I did before. And it was kind of because I have so many different platforms that I use now that I needed to really like be on it minimally to get it all done. But it's opened up a lot of free time to do other things that a lot of us use just like perusing.
One question I'm seeing a lot in the chat is the frequency of how often you post. And then also people are wondering if there are any tools that will maybe automatically post for you so you don't have to spend so much time doing it every day.
The number of posts. It's important to a point, but it's important, especially if you're trying to grow. I have maintenance periods and then I have growth periods. I'm going to give you the numbers for growth period if you're actively trying to grow. Instagram posts 3 times a day. One of them should be a video or a reels. You need to use your stories. You should probably do 1 live stream a week. You can have that scheduled. Facebook, wow. I know what you're supposed to do. I've never done it and I've seen people do it and I'm like, wow. Facebook, if you could schedule and post something every hour, every 2 hours, and that's just sharing stuff. It doesn't have to be like for you. If you have the ability and you can schedule ahead of time, like while you're perusing, you can just be like, oh, that's a cool article. Let me share that. Or while you're looking at Facebook, other people's pages, oh, let me share that and put it on that time. After a while, the pipeline happens, so it's not so overwhelming. But that's what I've seen people who like skyrocket grew on Facebook in this segment. Facebook group, just whenever. But just know that that's a place where it's like not, you can get more intimate. It's more direct because these are people that have opted in. So it's more people who want to know what you're up to and know more about the human aspect of your brand. Pinterest, whenever you can. I haven't figured that one out, to be honest. YouTube once a week. That used to be my cadence. If you can do it twice a week, that's even better. But I would say if you're trying to grow YouTube, post 1 long form and 1 shorts a week. Maybe do that. But really, I've been repurposing a lot of my TikToks, the ones that I think will do well over on YouTube, and they do well in my shorts. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that because clearly that's something that's working. And then TikTok, oh, this one's hard. 3 to 4 times a day. Yeah, Yeah, it's a lot. I know. But now that I've been on the app for over a year, wow, like the past month and a half, all I've done is repost old videos. Like they didn't know. And if I had something new to say, I would do it, but you can repurpose videos and repost videos over and over again. And that's where it's like you need to think about this as content creation as opposed to it being a chronological depiction of what you're doing in every given moment of the day. There are sometimes I post new stuff that I finished like months prior. I just never got down to promoting it. So just you'll have a bevy of content that you can repurpose and reuse for so many different times. No one's going to unfollow you because you posted something a second time. Like it's not going to happen. And if so, that's fine. You're going to get more people and it's going to be worth it. So there's that. For schedulers, I don't use a scheduler. I need to use a scheduler. I just don't. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know why. But there's Planoly. That's the one I do use when I use it. And then there's Hootsuite. There's some more that are in the chat that you can use. But I have found that there's like a flaw with each of them. And so it's like there's not one that's like perfect. And most of them you still have to go in and like send it. And so I'm like, what's the point if I have to do that? I'll just post what I need to post. Because if I have to get in there and do it, that's like pulling me out of my day. But scheduling isn't something that I've looked into or done a lot of just because there's always a barrier to me. And how often do I add to my blog? Wow, like once a week, I feel is good. Yeah, but that depends on what kind of blog you're going to have. There's two types that I've seen in the makerspace. One is like tutorial based or product based, which are like things that you make and you tell people about it and you have links. And then another one is like helpful lists. Like these are the best sewing notions. These are the best papers. These are the best this. So those are two different kinds of blog content you can do. It doesn't always have to be your project. It can just be regurgitating something. And then that's it. That's those two. Answer those questions.
Matthew, we had a couple of comments that resonated with me. People were saying it's not so much when you're starting out about posting so frequently. If you can't manage that, then consistency is more important for your brand. Keeping that activity up on your sites and on your channels may be beneficial if you're really struggling to handle the quantity.
And for me, like these were the growth numbers. So for me, there have been times when I've focused on one platform. Like I can't be in growth mode for all of them. Right now I'm in growth mode for TikTok. So I'm doing extra over there, which means I'm just doing maintenance, which is like maybe one original post a day, if I can do that. But really it's about consistency and never like going away. Another thing that a lot of people don't do, especially if you're starting out, is to engage with the humans in your comments, especially like during the first half hour to an hour, any post anywhere. Like I've always heard people whine and complain about having to respond to comments. And I'm always like, but those aren't comments. Those are people. Those are potential customers trying to engage with you. And while their question might seem silly, that's just what they came up with to try to talk to you. That's it. So to like, just ignore all of that. Wow. Now I've created lovely relationships over the years just responding to people in my comments. I can't do it now, but especially in the beginning for the first few years, every comment everywhere I would respond to. That's sometimes more important than putting up another post. So sometimes if you have a choice between doing a post for the day or going back through your old posts and like just responding, go do that. Go do that.
That brings up a really good question I saw that said, should social media content focus on your products or you, the creator?
It depends. It depends on what your brand is. For mine, and I saw some people mention the penetration strategy. It's a marketing term of how I was going to penetrate and enter the maker space. That whenever I did my market analysis of just makerspace in general, I noticed there weren't a lot of personality focused brands. Not to say that people don't have a personality, but there weren't a lot of like razzle dazzle. And I was like, well, I have that in my back pocket. So I decided I was going to enter that way. And part of having a personality based brand was I needed to bring myself front and center just to make it like da da da. So that's why I share about myself. But some people choose not to. If that's your choice, and you have to respect it, but it is going to inhibit you growing. So it doesn't need to be personal stuff, but yeah, sharing something that you've done related to your business might be cool. I used to have a ratio where I would do 5 posts about my business and then 1 post personal. So it's like every 6 posts I would do something personal, because that's what draws people in and that's what gets people to know you. And if they get to know you and like you, then they want to like support you and buy things from you, right? So that's whether it's a good or a bad thing. Good for me because I've got a personality, but it's really intimidating having to like I mean, like this, I still have problems. I was nervous as all could get out before I started this, but you just have to do it. It's just something that you have to do. So, that's my answer for that. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Just to give you a time heads up, we're about 45 minutes in. We do have plenty of other questions rolling in if you'd like me to just fire them at you.
Yeah, just do that. I mean, for the content, I went through the nuts and crannies. This is where we get into the meat of it, all these questions.
Okay, so we had a few questions about selling specifically on the social media platforms, like the ability to do shopping on Instagram and like that. Do you utilize those functions?
A little bit. I tried to, like, my merch store interfaces with Instagram, so I put that there. But I know that, like, I think you have to put your products on Facebook before they can come to Instagram. I haven't done that. I don't know how to do that, but I'm trying to, because that's one more touch point for people to potentially buy your stuff. And I have sold some shirts, some of my merch shirts from Instagram by using that feature.
Okay, perfect. Some other questions we're having. Is there such thing as oversharing, telling your audience too much, or perhaps too much behind the scenes of your business?
Yep.
Or sharing your secrets to how to make it the project instead of them buying it from you?
Well, that's a business decision. Do you want to sell the products or do you want to sell the patterns? Like me, I always tell people I'd rather teach someone how to make something because I'm really, really expensive if they want to buy from me. And so that's my value proposition as a brand. But it depends. It depends what, this is where it's like, it's so specific. It really just depends on what you want to do, right? There's no one way to do anything. But the best thing is if you have a situation, the way everyone who's on here, we're a community of people trying to grow our business. I hope that there have been some connections and friends made or met or rekindled with. That's how we get better. It's not necessarily from the information I gave. It's the starting point, but it's from the conversations and connections that happen as a result of it. So like when you go to the video or to my blog, if you see people commenting, read them. You might engage with them. You might have an answer that they need, right? I might have an answer. I might have a question based on what someone says, but it's that after that's gonna generate all of us, and we're gonna all be the next Martha Stewart, period. That's it.
So this next question is about discovering your demographic. If you're brand new, you've just started making product, you've never sold anything before, do you have any advice or resources for discovering what your demographic is and which social media platform you might be better off focusing on first?
Yeah, this is you knowing your product. Like, what are you making? What are you selling? Who's going to buy it? Whenever you sell a product or make a product, you need to know who your end consumer is. That's something you need to think about. So me making quilts, who's going to buy my quilts? I don't know. Who buys quilts for the price that they're supposed to be at? That's pretty boutique. So for things that I sell things that people are wanting. That's another, it's not social media advice. It's just, if you're choosing to sell handmade items, your success at business isn't necessarily going to be making the things that you want to. Those can be the add-ons, but you need to make things that people want. So like, for instance, I make hats with my knitting machine and a power drill because I can do it at a rate that people can afford it. So I make a lot of those. People have cold heads, they need that. But look into that. So if you're going to make something, and I know this probably wasn't the answer that you were wanting because this is effort. If you're going to make something, explore that and see who's buying it. Find out who's buying it. This is one benefit that I have that my Facebook group doesn't know that I use them. I use them as a focus group all the time. If I'm not sure about something, I'll go ask a question and they'll answer it, and then I'll have my answer. So you probably have those groups somewhere, even within your circle, like ask. But then whenever you investigate that specific product, also investigate things that are around it. And you might be able to uncover and find something that's a high volume product. That might not be the most fun thing to make, but it's going to bring you some cash, and cash is fun. I like to get it. So that's what I would do from there. Is that's how you'll find it. It's knowing who your end customer is going to be. And then based on that information, we'll determine which social media platform you're going to go to. If it's 50 and up and you're just starting, then Facebook's it. If your demographic or people that are buying the thing are like midlife, like 30s and 40s, then that's Instagram. If they're for kids or like young adults, then that's TikTok. So that's where you would need to start. Makes sense?
Makes perfect sense to me. I love in the chat, I'm seeing a lot of people exchange their handles and post their own sites. I love seeing that engagement in the chat. Thank you, everyone.
Yay! That's awesome.
And if you haven't found the link yet, we are periodically dropping the link to his blog as well as the PDF checklist into the chat. So make sure to grab that and use that.
I love it. This has been a really interactive group.
Really talkative group today, yeah.
Yeah, thank y'all for participating.
Okay, we have one question. Can you speak about the quality of followers versus quantity of followers? Is there a difference between just having big numbers versus people who are actually engaging?
Oh yeah, big numbers don't mean a thing. Big numbers don't mean a thing. I mean, it does. But it's about the quality. Like, don't like buy followers or whatever. And even like I stopped doing as many giveaways and loops. Those are great in the beginning, but it's like I didn't see any benefit anymore from any of that, because it's like I want a quality of followers. And I feel like a key to me having the level of engagement that I do, and engagement is like how many people interact with my content and stuff, is because the first few years I responded to everyone. Like I just was chatting, and so it's like people that they're just used to it, and like now there's more people and they know that interact. So that's the key part. It's just make sure to always respond. Like really, just like that's super important, and people miss out on that.
Separately from just the social media platforms, we had a few questions asking about the benefit of having a dedicated website for yourself rather than just using a blog or using an Etsy.
Yeah, I have a website, and I actually have. I'm on my second web designer. I hired a web designer that gets it. And I feel like finally, after 6 years, I have a website designed for commerce, and it flows well, and she gets it. So just build from it as you need to. But yeah, I feel anytime, stop shaking. Anytime you can own something, whether it's your newsletter, like that's you, your blog, your website, that's you. You control that. Absolutely. And even if all you have is an about section in a blog, that's a website. Make it so.
We also have a few questions about people who are worried about being too shy to post on social media, and how can they come out of their shell?
Do it.
Simple enough.
That's it. You just have to do it. You have to do it. You just have to do it. Like this is the thing. It's like you want to be a business or not. You got to do it. And you might find that it just gives you hives and you have a panic attack, which I suffer. I live with those quite often. So I understand that. Then it's not for you. Then there are ways you can be there where maybe it's just your hands, or maybe you use slides. There are other ways for you to engage. Or like for me, I use my captions as an opportunity to share the Matthew aspect of Mr. Domestic. And those are more casual and personal and like elicit some kind of conversation. That's another way. So it's not just about you being full face, but that's the direction social media is going in. It was headed in that direction even before COVID. It was about video. Everything was video. And now it's about video and live streaming. And that's where the trends mandate that you just gotta do it. Because eventually Instagram's not gonna be it. There's gonna be something that integrates everything beautifully, and it's not gonna be Instagram. People are one day gonna think of Instagram like they think of Facebook now. It's just the nature of what social media is. So until the trends change, you just gotta do it. And eventually you get more comfortable doing it. Me, I've had it's in my training, but before I did like speech and debate and public speaking, I was that person. Shy, scared, didn't want to talk. Oh my God. Anytime I had to get up, I would speak a mile a minute because I was so anxious. And just over time, I got better. I mean, heck, if y'all want to make fun, you can go to my very first YouTube video and watch that. That's a different situation, but it's just practice. So, I mean, you could start by like live streaming and getting comfortable just engaging with people. You can practice with yourself, send it to friends. Yeah, but I would not just say you don't have to ever do it. I would not, that's not an option. And that's where it's like, it's the difference between, are you trying to just make a couple extra bucks with your hobby, or do you want to have a business? Because anywhere that I've worked, there's always been things I didn't want to do. I'm just like, I'm sure that there's things, like that's just how it is at work. There's just stuff that you love, and there's stuff that it's like, oh my God, I just don't want to do that. This is one of those moments. But just the fact, and this is what got me over it, the fact that it's something that you built, that it's yours, like it's yours, allows me to get over it. I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool. I made this. Let's talk. So that's where it's just unique. Don't ever lose sight of what the overall joy thing is, and that's that you created an awesome business and you're selling stuff, and like, that's super cool. That's super cool. And that in itself is the hardest barrier. So if you're willing to do that, get in front of the camera, no big deal. No big deal.
Matthew, I feel like that is just a great point to end on. I know we have a little bit more time, so if a few more questions do come in, I would rather people maybe contact you separately. Where can they find you on Instagram?
I am everywhere. So I'm everywhere and I'm accessible. I'm Mr. Domestic spelled out. MISTER DOMESTIC. You need to spell it out. If you just do MR, you might find a cat. And I'm definitely a human male. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, my website is mrdomestic.com. I have an online sewing school if anyone wants to learn how to sew or learn some of my tips there. That's called Sew You. It's sew-u.com. But really, my website, if you want to just find me, that's the first place to go. And then there are links to everything there. And then in the worksheet, I put hyperlinks. If you're looking on a phone or something, if you just click one of the platforms that you want to connect with me at, you'll be able to just go directly to my page.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew. Everyone, please do keep in mind this recording will be up on our Michael Stores YouTube channel tomorrow in about 24 hours. And a few of you were asking if you could save the chat. You should be able to see a little 3 dots in your chat box. Click that button, hit download, save chat. Thank you so much for your time today, Matthew, and happy making, everyone.
Happy making!